Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of I Never Knew, But My Dog Did podcast. I am Maureen Scanlon, your host and life coach Maureen, as most of you know me. So I have to say, oh, we got puppies barking in the background. It is what it is. I have to say, guys, I was just telling my next guest that he jumped off the page of my future guest that I want to have on here. And I don't know if he's going to like my analogy, but I so appreciate, first of all, my heart opened because he said, I'm an open book. And my heart opened up when he said, I recognized this thing in myself and then I aimed to correct it. Well, for me, and my husband hates my analogies, but it's like this. I have studied, for example, if I've studied frogs, I can learn about frogs. And if I had like a pet frog that bit me, I'm going to have some feelings toward that frog. But really, I'm not going to learn about a frog until I dissect that frog. And that may be the silliest analogy until you guys understand what I'm talking about. And we're talking about narcissism, which is something that is just thrown around. If someone's mean to you or seems selfish, oh, they're a narcissist. And that's absolutely not true. I have certification in narcissistic personality and relationships. And so my next guest, I got to tell you about him because he's absolutely fantastic. And I'm just honored that he's here with us today. And I hope I do justice, listeners, by asking the questions that you really want to know as much as I do. So after being named one of Florida's top personal trainers, he became a published fitness model. The more attention he received, the more destructive he became in every aspect of his life. This is what led to his version of rock bottom. He attempted suicide multiple times and had become a full-blown narcissist. After accepting the nightmare that he had become, instead of killing himself, he dedicated his life to killing that version of him. I love that line. He now helps victims of narcissists gain back control in their own lives through his guide he created to help men avoid the pitfalls that can lead to extreme narcissism, while teaching others how to avoid falling into relationships with narcissists, but also to help women overcome the trauma and struggles of rediscovering themselves again. He has been a teenage father, a construction worker, a personal trainer, a fitness model, and a business owner. And love you for this. He's also been a liar, a cheater, a backstabber, and a narcissist. Through his trials, tribulations, and downfalls, he's learned that it's never too late to turn your life around. His ultimate goal in creating the program that he has is to help others live every aspect of their life at the highest level while being able to avoid the costly pitfalls of our modern society. Oh, my heart. Welcome, Derek Newborn.
How's it going? I'm super happy to be here. I appreciate that introduction. It was perfect, actually. It was great.
Oh, I love it. It's one thing to write it yourself, but then I have to really like the emotion that I have behind that vulnerability and honesty that you share. I have to make sure that the listeners feel you the way that I did. So
I appreciate that.
Here on I Never Knew, we start with our knee story. And as someone who has survived suicidal thoughts and attempts, I'm sure you have many, but you can start your knee story. When were you on your knees saying, this isn't working for me? This is my rock bottom and something has to change.
Yeah. So really the beginning of that story is, about 10 years ago. So in my early 20s, middle 20s, I just knew that I wanted to feel worthy. So I started going through my own physical transformation. And then from there, I built a very successful personal training business, which was like my dream job, to be able to work in a gym and make a career out of it and be very successful. I created that for myself. And then, the fitness modeling, that was another dream come true, being on magazines, books, all that stuff. And then I was able to I guess, attract the woman of my dreams at the time. And I had a full blown, 7-year relationship with her. So I had literally manifested everything that I thought that I wanted, everything that I thought made me successful, quote unquote. The whole time, as everything was improving on the outside, more successful, more attention, deeper relationship with my partner, I was self-destructing on the inside. So outside, everything was great. On the inside, there was nothing but darkness and negativity. Like none of that made me feel any better about myself. And so with all that attention came a lot of lying, a lot of cheating, a lot of just using people for my benefit with complete disregard for other people. And that pertained to my girlfriend, my friends, even my family. And obviously, the more I did that, the worse and worse I felt. And I couldn't figure out, because no matter how many times I cheated or tricked somebody into doing something for me, it never made me feel good. But I was still continuing to do it. So I just couldn't figure out. It literally felt like two different people. There's the people that everybody see, and then there's this person that lives inside of me that is just the worst person on earth for some reason at that point. And the more self-sabotage, right? Oh, people can only handle so much of it before it got to the point where everybody removed themselves from my life and they just couldn't do it, right? So eventually it got to the point where, okay, everybody's gone. I still feel this way. There's no one else to blame. The only common denominator in all the shit that I've created is me. So maybe I should start there. And that brought me to, for the very first time in my life, I was truly alone. I didn't have anybody to lean on, nobody to use, nobody to make me feel better in any way, shape, or form. And that led to severe depression, which is what I've been struggling with the whole time, but I didn't realize it. So it got to the severe depression, which led to the suicide attempts, which is the absolute rock bottom for me. So the suicide attempts, I eventually realized, was in no way did I want to physically end my life. I was trying to kill that version of myself. I didn't know how else to do it other than suicide. So once I made it through those attempts, I was at rock bottom. And the great thing about hitting rock bottom is you can only go up from there. Right. So if I realized if I was at the bottom, from this moment on, I can create whatever life that I want for myself. I can be whatever human being I want if I take ownership and I do the shadow work. From that point on, I can be whatever version I want. So that started the reverse process of unpacking all the trauma and things I experienced growing up through my childhood in my early 20s, which was a lot of abandonment. So then I had realized, I'd been experiencing abandonment and experiencing that people will leave your life no matter what you do. So when it went to my relationship, I subconsciously thought this woman was going to leave me at all times, even if she had no intention. So I would have somebody lined up on the side. But, right. So that was my way of protecting myself. Same thing with friends and family. These people are going to leave me at some point. I need to extract whatever benefit I can from them. That way I'm taken care of, because I never want to be abandoned again. Wow. And then from that, I kept, from my own personal development is how we got to this point.
It's amazing to me, the insight that you have. And I'm going to throw out some statistics here. So when it comes to narcissism, there are narcissistic traits, which we all have. We all have narcissistic traits. And then there is narcissistic personality disorder, or NPD. And that is a complete lack of empathy. And there's no medicine that we throw at this. So it's not a mental disorder. It is a personality disorder similar to sociopathy and psychopathy, where it is a behavioral change. But it is so underdiagnosed because, and they say that only 5% of anyone who is actual NPD will seek help, because the
Yeah.
inability to really have that self-awareness and see that I'm the problem, in Taylor Swift's, words, to quote her, I'm the problem, it's me. It's so rare. And that's why you jumped off the page at me, because I've had my experiences. I have a child that I feel has NPD. I've been
Mm.
in many, many relationships with narcissists. So many questions I have for you. How
Let's do
did
it.
you discover, first of all, did you discover that I have narcissistic traits, or I was diagnosed with NPD, or even if you weren't diagnosed, because I don't think we have to be diagnosed to understand stuff about ourselves. Where did you
Yeah.
come up with your narcissistic understanding of your personality?
I think I 100% acquired those traits, because I really just looked at, if I get super, again, transparent with myself, everything I did was solely for my benefit in every aspect. Like, I wanted to be seen as worthy. I wanted everything. I wanted to be the guy, right? So, the best way I could take ownership of everything I was done was attribute it to narcissistic personality, right? Or narcissistic traits, right? Because, like you said, not a lot of people are willing to admit it. We all have some narcissistic traits. You have to survive, right?
Mhm.
But if I can attach myself to that, then I take extreme ownership of it, which means nobody can ever use it against me ever again, which is why I'm so transparent on my social media and stuff, and why I'm always talking about, using my actual downfalls to help people avoid people like the person I was. So, like, that, it just helps me. It helps me, I guess, label and attach that version of myself to something, instead of just saying I was an asshole, right? I was very,
Right.
very narcissistic.
And I think it's like that with anything in life. Once we get a diagnosis, then we've empowered ourselves. Now we can get knowledge, and now
Yeah.
we can move forward, and I'm not big on like labels as far as mental health, but I do believe it helps us to narrow down what these traits are, what these behaviors are.
Yeah.
And I love that you said something super interesting to me. And this is why I'm so happy you're here. You said, I acquired the traits. Now,
Hmm.
in studies, and I don't care about any studies anyone has done, because the best person to give this information is sitting right in front of me. So nature
Yeah.
versus nurture. Tell
Yeah.
me, what do you believe? Do you think we are just born that way, or do you think our environment can cause these narcissistic personalities and traits?
Yeah. This is a great question, because if you sit and think about it, again, I don't know anything about studies. I just know my exact experience, right? And I know for a fact that nobody is born a narcissist. That you just, right? Babies aren't narcissists. You're not born that way.
Right.
Things have to happen, essentially, for you to start taking on traits. So whether they're positive traits or good traits, things have to happen, right? You have to experience positive things to acquire positive traits. Same thing with negative. So I've acquired them subtly over the years, from my father going to prison at when I was 7, and leaving my mom as a single mom, which creates a whole new world of things. She did the best she could, but there was times where I had to be dropped off at 4 a.m. at the gate of the school and sleep by the gate till the maintenance man let me in. A lot of things where, again, I felt very abandoned, all the way up to um, my divorce in my early 20s, where I came home and everything was gone and me and my son were left with nothing. And so those traits, like I mentioned earlier, I subconsciously said, no more being abandoned. I don't care. I'm going to make sure I'm not abandoned. So then whatever comes into your life, whatever you experience, even if this person is great, I know, because I witnessed it when I was 7. I witnessed it just a few years ago. these people will leave you, and I'm going to stay one step ahead.
Oh my
And so that's
gosh.
how I acquired those traits.
You just gave me so much insight, because all I could think of when you were saying that is it's almost a defiance of spirit and maybe subconscious, where it's like, this is never going to happen again, because I'm going to make sure number one is taken care of, and no one's going to have that power to take that from me.
Yeah.
Oh
And
my.
it gets very dangerous, right? Because I spent so many years trying not to be abandoned, that through all those actions of trying not to be abandoned, I ended up in my worst fear, which is everybody actually did have to leave,
Yeah.
because I was abandoning myself the whole time. And when I thought I was doing the opposite. And that's where, and then that leads to mental health battles, and that leads to dark thoughts and people's struggles and suicide attempts and stuff. Because essentially we're betraying ourselves. Whatever we're trying to avoid is really what we're actually doing to ourselves.
Oh my gosh. And I just, all I can think of is my oldest child. And I think of, I have a lot of mommy guilt, because we had some very similar situations. Their father was a non-participant. I was a single mom, and it was
Yeah.
definitely a struggle. And, through the years I enabled, because I had that guilt. So
Mhm.
she took advantage of that, and just at every possible way, mental, physical, financial, playing on that. And I wish everyone was able to, and this is why I love your program. And oh, I love it so much, because if we could just please get this to every person out there, who they don't have to have shame, they just have to have accountability. And I do
Ownership.
think,
Yeah.
I think everyone does have to leave at one point. And sadly, with my daughter, it's kind of the same thing. I have her son now. Her brother and sister don't speak to her. I mean,
Yeah.
literally, she's been isolated from everyone, because we have to reach a point where we have to be healthy too, and it's not healthy. I love her, don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but I can't be around her because of those traits, and because of the taking advantage and hurting us. So when you took accountability, this is
Mhm.
fascinating to me. Did you, A, how do you earn that trust back? And B, did you go to the people who cut you off and say, I've realized things about myself, and here's the things that I'm going to do to earn your trust back?
Mhm. Yeah. So earning people's trust back. Not everybody is responsible for trusting you again. They don't owe anything to you, right? So that's the first thing, like, I had to accept. So I could shout from the rooftop that I'm no longer this person. That doesn't mean anybody's going to fall for it, right?
Right.
They have their own thoughts and their own experiences. So again, all I can do, and I did to everybody that I hurt, is take ownership and say, you know, as much as I loved you, I was more concerned about taking care of myself. And this is why I did A, B, or C to you. And if all I can be is 100% transparent, they can flick me off and say, go to hell. They can accept it and never speak to me again. They can choose to be part of my life, right? I can't control that. I can only take ownership of my end. And that's a big step, because you realize, even it, like, I am this new person, and those people might not ever accept it again. But if I'm truly healed, I have to be okay with that, right? I'm
Right.
not doing this to get the verification from other people. I'm in this position because of myself, because I want better for myself.
I
So
love
you can't,
that. It's
yeah.
like
So just because
you,
somebody doesn't accept it doesn't change my journey. Now, do I
yes.
want certain things? Of course, but I have to take ownership of the fact that it's not their responsibility to meet me where I'm at.
I love that, because it was a shift of needing outside validation to now having inside validation, where that will change behavior in and of itself. When you've said the word a couple of times, and it's something I talk about in my life coaching with my clients, is acceptance. Just being able to
Yeah.
accept that people are who they are, and they're not going to behave the way that we want them to. Here's a question, and I know my listeners are wanting this too. In the relationships that I had with the narcissistic people, they would
Mhm.
do behavior that was so hurtful. And I would literally say, were you even thinking about me when you did that? Or did you even think about the consequences? Or, and with narcissism comes a lot of pathological lying, because
Oh
you
yeah.
got to be
Oh yeah.
prepared 10 steps down the road for every question I'm going to ask you, and you got to cover your ass. So tell me, when you were in that space, and especially like the cheating, because mine were unfaithful and they were lying, and it was all of
Sure.
it. I had all of it. Tell me, and I remember like my first husband, he was an alcoholic, but not a narcissist. And I would say to him when he would put that drink to his lips, did you even think about me and your children? He said, absolutely not. He just needed that drink. But when it came to narcissism, I think it was even more hurtful, because there wasn't an addiction to blame it on. It was like a choice. And
Yeah.
I could never wrap my head around, why would you do this to the people who love you the most? Tell
Yeah.
me where your thought process and accountability and maybe understanding now comes from.
Yeah. So like you say, how could you do that to the people you love the most? So in my situation, remember everything I experienced in abandonment was from the people I love the most,
Okay. Okay.
right?
Hmm.
Parents, ex-wife, people that I love the most. So that's what I went off of. So just to piggyback on the question you asked before about how do you get people to trust you again, you don't get people to trust you again. You just lead your life. If that's who you are now, then you lead. And then if people choose to see that, right? So that comes with very uncomfortable conversations, right? So if I'm asked, why did I do A, B, or C? Because I only cared about myself. I was not concerned about you in any way, shape, or form. I was only concerned about myself. So, so it's just a bunch of uncomfortable conversations. And if that's the truth, again, you can, it's up to you how you want to use it. So the more, like, I just got super comfortable having uncomfortable conversation. So anybody could ask me anything, any details about something, and I would tell them point blank, no matter how hurtful it was to hear, at least they know it. I've taken ownership of it. And then now what do we do? And instead of trying to make excuses, I wasn't thinking, or I made a mistake. You have to stay in front of it. And that's where your power lies, because you stay in front of that, then they're gonna be like, all right, at least this guy's telling the truth, no matter how shitty it is. I know he's telling the truth. He's got nothing left to hide. And that's what's
Yes.
so great about coming back from rock bottom, where you can create whatever version of yourself you want.
Oh, I love that. It's like you had a do-over. You basically said, I'm gonna recreate. I'm gonna start
Yeah.
fresh. And
Right.
I'm so glad, that you came out of that and you were here to do this and to share this. I'm taking all kinds of notes. I'm just fascinated. I got comfortable being uncomfortable. And I love that
Yeah.
that's, I'm quoting you on that, because I really love that. And you're right. And it's time. It's time. You're just going to live your life. And the people who want to believe it or see it, whether it's a month or whether it's 10 years before they believe it, is really important. And if they don't,
Yeah.
that's okay too. It's that acceptance part of it. Um, my
Yeah.
other,
There's still like, I mean, if you see my social media, when I talk about narcissism and all that, there's still people who call me a narcissist or think I am, because I'm talking about those things.
yeah.
Right. And again, it's not my responsibility to change their mind. I'm just here to speak my journey and let it help who is designed to help. I'm not here to make anybody think a certain way of me.
I
And
love
that's
that.
just part of the journey.
It is, and your fear of abandonment was the root of it. And then
Mm-hmm.
what's interesting to me is, from what I understand, low self-esteem is
Yeah.
really the foundation of it. And this sort of faking it till you make it, or presenting yourself a certain way so no one sees those insecurities and that
Yeah.
low self-esteem. And hearing you now, I'm like, the key is, let's just build self-esteem. Let's just build, self-confidence, which is the key thing that I do in my messages and in my books and in my coaching. I think it's the root of all mental illness, is just low
Hmm.
self-esteem and not believing in ourselves. You
Yeah.
said something amazing. You said, all I can do is walk my journey and talk about it. And I wish all of us could just internalize our own validation and stop worrying about what's outside
Yeah.
of us, because we came alone, we leave alone. And what we do in the middle, we have to be good with who we are.
Yeah.
I
100%. Yeah.
So tell me this, and this is something, it may be a myth, and you can
Okay.
completely debunk this for me. One of
Okay.
the things people always say is narcissists are attracted to empaths.
Yeah. Yeah.
So tell me what kind of people you would be attracted to, because if it is empaths or not.
Yeah. Again, so I'll speak from my situations personally, and then what I see working with clients. So if you want to put a label on it, you could put empath on it. But so, people, narcissist, such a buzzword. Everybody calls everybody narcissist nowadays,
I
right?
know. Yep.
But what we don't realize is you have to take a step back and figure out why you're attracting narcissists into your life. Number one, right? Because in my situation, it got so bad, right? I did more and more damage because my girlfriend tried to be so understanding, because she just wanted to fix things, wanted to smooth things over. In my mind at that time, that was just giving me a free pass to keep doing what I was doing.
Mm.
Right. And in that, as that kept going and she kept, understanding, being forgiven, trying to fix things, she was also losing herself. So we're both doing ourselves a disservice by her being the way she was and me being the way she was. Because if, the first red flag that came across, if she would have said, this isn't, we're not going to do this, I probably wouldn't have went to that far to rock bottom, right?
Yep.
But what we do is we call them empaths, right? They're always trying to fix their partner. But really what you're doing is you're enabling them, because all you're doing is showing that narcissist that, hey, you can always come back here and we'll keep doing what we're doing. And that, like I said, that's a free pass. That gives a narcissist zero reason to change.
Yeah. No
Until
accountability.
the only thing will happen is they'll discard you in some way, shape, or form and move on to the next person. And then you'll also move on to the next person that you want to help fix or heal, and you'll stay in that cycle also.
Yeah.
So that's what I think.
Well,
There's attraction between those certain people for sure. Narcissists see it as, essentially it helps fuel their narcissism. And I think both of them come from a sense of low self-esteem
yeah.
as the problem.
That's
And
exactly where I was going with it. We
yeah,
both have low self-esteem, but we're all showing it in a different way. I
yeah,
personally am a recovered people fixer, and I always
yeah,
said my picker was broke because I did it, and that built, being on the other side of it, it builds your self-esteem because you're needed and they want
yeah,
you, but you're going to get treated the way you allow yourself to be treated. And
exactly,
there's no
exactly.
level of respect there. If you don't respect yourself and your self-worth, I mean, I hit my rock bottom, at 45, and just said, oh my God, the common denominator in all these narcissistic relationships is me.
There you
You
go.
know,
Yeah,
and literally it's why I wrote the books, because my dogs were looking at me with unconditional love. And I'm like, well, damn, I don't love myself the way my dog
yeah,
loves me. And then I built that, everything, my message is, learning to be my own best friend and being able to stand
Nailed it. You
on,
nailed it.
you know what I mean? Learning that I was worth something. And then I wasn't worth something just because I was in a relationship. I wasn't worth something just because I was doing something for someone or helping
Yeah.
them or fixing them. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love the way
That's
that we're able to see this duality of both sides. That's why I wanted you on so bad. So you now help women such as I was
hmm
in my youth. Tell us about how your program works with your clients, and do you get a lot of and in, I'm going to say this, and please don't come for me people, but there is a prevalence gender wise. Narcissism is more prevalent in men,
Yeah.
and women tend
Yeah.
to be more nurturing and
Yeah.
empathetic and
Yeah.
fixers. So we do
Yeah.
tend to be more I don't like the victim label, but we do tend to be more attracted and put up with it from narcissists. So tell me, in your practice, are you treating more narcissists or more people who have been with narcissists?
Mainly treating women that have been through narcissism, dealt with it, and coming out the other side. So whether they're at the point of, coming through divorce, whatever, they're coming through trying to find themselves again. So essentially, what we do is we start rebuilding them, not rebuilding, having them rediscover themselves from the inside out. So we can call it a health and wellness coaching platform, because we start with fitness, we start with diet, just to create the foundation to build the exact woman they want to be, right? Because mentally they're not sure who they are, emotionally they're drained, spiritually they're so confused. So we start very small and get them into daily habit and routine of taking care of themselves, even if they're struggling mentally and feel terrible about themselves. Just those small new daily habits of taking care of themselves will subconsciously start showing themselves that they're worth it, they're valuable, they have everything they need. And then from there we start working through everything they've been through and start unpacking all that, and they start discovering why they experience certain things, much like I said, if they're an empath, why they kept going through these things, because they were trying to do something, because something is lacking inside them from whatever experiences. So instead of me telling all these women what they need to become, we just start removing everything that no longer serves them. So
Mhm.
essentially we strip away all the costumes, all the mask, all the negative beliefs. So now there's just this beautiful woman that they're put on this earth to be. And the great thing about it is, right, when we have conversations, I'm able to tell them exactly why this person did this to them, or why they get stuck in these situations over and over again. It's because this person is doing A, B, or C, or looking for A, B, and C. And then that gives them a game plan so they can keep on this journey, because we're eliminating all the roadblocks. We're eliminating everything that no longer serves them.
I love that so much, and the value that you bring from being that person that you can relate to why that was happening to them. And you and I need to collaborate because we
Yeah.
we sandwiched in the middle. So for me, having been through that and understanding, first thing I do, you work on the physical, and I love that because it's empowering when you start prioritizing yourself, even if it's just physical, because mental overspills into physical and
Yeah.
vice
They're all
versa,
connected.
right? Whole body. For me, we immediately start working on false and limiting beliefs, and then we
Yeah.
find these trends where it's like, oh my gosh, I saw my mom always doing stuff for my dad, or my parents always said you're not
Yeah.
going to amount to anything, or we
Exactly.
break down doing that inner work where it's like, well, if I didn't believe that anymore, I wouldn't behave that way. And for me, it's beneficial. I do dating and relationship coaching. And so if I see a couple who, oh, if it's right there, I'm like, okay, here's what's going on. Or even dating for those who have a tendency to be with narcissistic people. We miss the red flags. My daughter used to have a
Yeah.
saying. She said, I put the red flags in my purse. And I remember
There you
many
go.
a time going on these dates with people and going, well, they're probably just nervous, or they're probably, that's just nobody's
Yeah.
perfect, chance after chance. And then here I
Yeah.
am a year in with this person who's
Exactly.
completely, um,
Yeah.
destroyed me in my life. And
Yeah.
basically, the one that I had was really, really, I ended up just in four walls in a cage. I mean, I was in bed by 6 o'clock
Mm.
at night. I had cancer. I was walking with a cane.
Oh, wow.
It broke me so bad mentally and emotionally that physically my body was like, we just can't do this anymore. So it
Yeah.
will take a toll
Wow.
if you keep doing it, guys. So for me, doing that dating coaching with someone who's newly out of a divorce, or with someone who's been very damaging, um it's when I finally felt I was healed, I had gone out on a date and he was a narcissist. And I recall coming home and telling my best friend, she's like, how was the date? And I was like, it was great. And she's like, what? And I go, yeah, he's a narcissist. And she's like, wait, what? And I'm like, no, understand. I get it. I saw it. I saw it right now. I saw it at the beginning and I said, nope, I'm not doing that. So
Yeah.
it was this joy that I could trust myself again.
That's the
And
greatest thing. Yeah.
right. I mean,
Yeah.
that's, do you find yourself, this is a really important question for me. Do you find yourself ever sort of falling back into some of those patterns, and you catch yourself kind of like, when I started dating my husband, he was backing off because of my enabling of my daughter, and I started bringing him dinner, and I started like trying to
Oh,
earn,
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I started to want to
Yeah.
earn his love again. And then
Yeah.
I noticed it and I went, yeah, no, that's not going to happen. And I broke up with him and said, no, I'm not doing this. Do you find you fall back in any patterns of narcissistic behavior?
So what I find is, number one, I know that the moment I wake up, depression is there. I
Mhm.
know that. And then I do know that if I make the opposite decisions that I used to make, I'll stay on the right path. So, you know, there's always access to feel worthy, especially with social media and the way society is, right? If I want attention from somebody, no, you don't have to look that hard to find attention from somebody. But I know if I have that thought, that just means I'm neglecting myself again, because you have to be your own best friend. So if I, instead of seeking attention from other people, I should really be seeking attention from myself, because I'm the only one that can validate myself. I'm the only person that lives in here. So as long as I know, if I know who I am, because I know I'm a great person, I know the person I'm supposed to be, and that person I love spending time with. So that keeps me from ever feeling like, well, I need to, let me see what I can grab from this person for the sake of my ego or my interest, whatever you want to call it. So really I'm just mindful of it. The biggest thing that I struggle with is just the triggers of, if somebody calls me a narcissist or says things like, why did you do this back in the day, or how
Mm.
can you be alone at this point in your life, or whatever it may be. Sometimes those triggers get me and put me on a downward spiral, but that's the biggest thing. But as far as narcissistic tendencies, that really, there was so much trauma that I caused myself, that I caused my family, even just through the suicide stuff. And with my um ex-girlfriends and all that, that it's just nothing about that would make me do anything of that nature again.
All of that was like mic drop moments, and I love that you say that, because it is almost like being a recovering addict.
Mhm.
Like, if you go back to doing those drugs, or you go back to overeating, or you go back to drinking that alcohol, the behavior that happens. It's a chain that just
Yeah.
continues, and you'll go back. And I love that your honesty about the triggers. It's like there's a shame factor there, and
Yeah.
I this is something that I love that you said. You said, when I wake up, depression is there.
Yep.
I love that you said that, because you didn't say I have depression. Because
Hmm.
I tell people all the time, nope, you don't have depression and depression doesn't have you. And
Yeah.
you just said something so pertinent. I have a choice to validate myself. If I feel that way, I'm neglecting myself. What can I do to bring joy and validation to myself so I don't need to go seek something
Hmm.
else that is either an escape, addictions,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
validation being dishonest or feeding the ego. So
Yeah.
I just think you are so fantastic. I can't
Well, thank
tell
you.
you.
I appreciate it.
I'm so gushy
Thank
and
you.
cheesy, and I know my listeners know this. And now you're in the club of guests who know how mushy I am. I don't hold back. I have no filter,
Oh, I love it.
and I just don't care, because I want people to know how amazing they are. And to me, that you can share this message, because we all, I think we heal each other even with our shame stories. I think we need to,
Hmm.
as Brene Brown always talks about, our shame story, but I
Yeah.
think we need to. But this subject is so difficult. I mean, I've
It's
had,
tough.
I've had guests who talk about, porn addiction. And
Yeah.
when people come out with such vulnerability and willingness to put their shame story in these neon lights for others,
Yeah.
I have mad respect, because it's not easy. And like you said, you could get triggered because you put yourself out there at the risk of people saying you can't recover from
Oh,
narcissism,
yeah.
you're a
It's
jerk, and you're just saying this to get blah. I love, and I believe, truly believe, that you are a shining example that
thank you.
narcissism and narcissistic personality traits can be changed, can be recognized, can be
100%.
owned, right?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think,
That's why I know my story can help so many people because it's the same thing. I wish I had me back then because it's very hard for guys to reach out because like I was successful in shape, all those things, felt like shit on the inside, had nowhere to turn because people would just be like, what do you have to be depressed about, right? So I also provide the opportunity for men that are in the situation that they can come and be like, dude, I'm just running my relationship into the ground, I'm self-sabotaging everything, I just need help, right? Because now they can come
I
to a place where I'm not there to critique them or criticize them or tell them everything's going wrong. Let's just figure out what we can do to get you out of it. So it's a
yes,
story that helps both sides, which is why I'm so passionate about sharing it.
I love that. And that's why, my listeners have heard this a million times. That's why I think coaching is so effective, because most of your coaches, we didn't sit in a classroom, although we do have, educations
Certifications,
as,
yeah,
but I think you're going to get so much more out of people who have the experience, who have the knowledge. For you to sit in front of a man, and gosh, I love that factor, for a man to be able to own it and come to you and say, dude, I'm doing these things. And you're like, I get it. I did too. Oh my gosh.
yeah,
How much easier is that for them to be like, whew,
yeah,
because I have women that come to me, and they've been in domestic violence, and they were shamed, and they were,
yeah,
abused. And I'll say, I know, honey, I've been there. I know it sucks.
yeah,
It really does. Let's fix this. Let's
yeah,
come on. We can do this. I move forward. Let's get you moving forward. We can do
yeah.
this. It's just so much more powerful than sitting, on a couch with someone taking notes. I just that's
I totally agree. I totally agree. I'm the same way. That's what I've had spiritual mentors. I've had life coaches. And it's the same thing. I work with people that have been through it. I've gone to the typical therapist and stuff, but it's the life coach that has been there who's has messed up their life and they got to the other side. Those are the people that I want to help myself personally, you know?
Yeah, well, hence why I do the podcast, because you know what,
Yeah.
guys, listeners, you do not even have to go to therapy or a life coach, although we would like you to come to us, because we do make a living doing this. But being able to have people hear this podcast who wouldn't otherwise call you, or who wouldn't
Right.
otherwise own what they do, to say, oh man, if this guy can come out and talk about all this, then
Yeah.
I'm gonna call him up, and then,
Yeah.
I can
100%.
own my stuff too. Um, Again, I'm so honored, and I hope I did justice.
Oh, thank you. No, I loved it. I loved it so
Oh,
much.
I love
I
it.
truly appreciate you having me on here. It was great.
Thank you so much. Now tell us what you have going on. First, we're gonna we'll get all of your marketing stuff, and then I have a fun little segment because I like to leave things on a lighter note.
Okay.
So, what do you have going on? Where can we reach you? Where can listeners just reach out if they want to just touch base with you?
Yeah.
Tell us all about you.
Yeah. So if you go to dereknewborn.com, you'll learn everything you need to know about my women's coaching program. My Instagram is at dnewborn, and that's the best place to reach out. I keep it super personal, super organic. So you can always message me there, and I'll message you. We'll have conversation about whatever it may be. Facebook is Derek Newborn. So website's dereknewborn.com, Instagram at dnewborn. That's the best place to shoot me a message, and we can connect and go from there with conversation. Like I said, I try to keep it super personal.
Oh my gosh, I love that everything is so simple. You have no idea how many people are like, so here's me at recovery.15279. It's like, okay, dereknewborn.com, at dnewborn on Instagram, Facebook at Derek Newborn. Thank you so much for keeping it simple. So here's our fun little segment that I like to
Okay.
call What Can You Do For Me? And this little
Okay.
segment is I want to know what you've either used or seen of a service, a business that people offer that's weird and wacky. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples that I found today. Since
Okay.
I happen to be such a dog lover and write books about dogs, I have a dog boutique. This is called a Dog U restaurant in San Francisco, and it's DOGUE restaurant, and it's a restaurant just for dogs, and they can try out all these different little snackies, and they have puppuccinos. So I of course think that one's fantastic, but this one is very odd. It's called Potato Parcel, and they write a custom message on a potato and they deliver it to the person of your choice. Why a potato? I have zero clue. So there's my examples for you today, Derek. What you got for me that you've used or seen or heard of?
What I've heard of is actually the business. Have you heard of feetfinder.com?
No.
You just upload a picture of your feet, and then people pay you. So anybody can do it.
I have heard that where people put, I think, well, I'm a big fan of Vanderpump Rules, and the girls all got together and they had like their feet in spaghetti, and then they had like all their feet together, and people actually
Yeah,
pay.
that's like a thing.
Ugh.
That's the thing. You just put your feet in it, and the great thing is anybody, like, somebody's going to be attracted to your feet. So feetfinder.com.
Feet
That's all I know
finder.
about it.
I
I've
was
seen
gonna ask you.
screenshots. I'm not on it. I've never been on it, but I know I have heard stories where people make a lot of money on it,
I
and
have
it's no work on your end. So if you're looking for a side hustle, feetfinder.com.
okay, I'm down for that. I think anything that you guys want to do, I am like a germaphobe OCD, so feet are so gross to me. And I happen to have very attractive feet, thank God. And so
Yeah,
does my husband, thank God. But I just foot fetishes. Hey, you know what? To each his own. Everybody
everybody's got their deal.
has
Yeah,
their thing. But no, that was a really, really good example. So, keeping it weird, I guess that's why I'm in
I love it.
Austin, we keep it weird here in Austin for sure. So, again, you are just a joy. Thank you for the hour that you just gave me and my listeners.
Oh, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Truly.
We needed that. We needed that.
Thank you.
The ink universe and community really needed that insight. And I think what you're doing is amazing and so needed out there because
Thank you
it's
so
just
much.
human human ways, human experiences, and
Yeah,
as the smarter we get about it, the better we get as
that's right.
people for each other. So listeners, that's going to wrap it up for this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed Derek as much as I did, and by the way, he's super handsome, so make sure that you catch the YouTube video. He has a bald head, and it is the most perfectly shaped bald head I've ever seen in my entire life. Like if I shaved my head, it would be terrible because I know I probably have a weird shaped head, but man, his head is just like, and this is not to be mean, but it looks like a perfect little egg. So
Oh boy,
you
I'll
just
take it.
wanna
I'll take it.
you just want to rub his head. I just want to like rub it like a genie lamp. So sorry that got a little weird there, but anyway, guys, you know where to find me. I'm at lifecoachmaureen.com. You can see all of my media information for speaking, my books, my life coaching. You can reach out, contact me, and also schedule a session there. And don't forget to get my books on Amazon. My dog is more enlightened than I am, and my dog is my relationship coach. And don't forget all the healthy treats and fun stuff at our online boutique at mydogiseverything.net. I love you all for listening. I love you all for your feedback, for all the 5-star reviews. And I'm just going to keep bringing you fantastic guests like Derek. I know it's every time you listen, you got to wonder, how can she top that? And yet they're out there, and we are going to match up and connect and be aligned because they're supposed to be here for all of you. So thank you all for listening. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Most of all, please take care of those furry babies for me. Please adopt and don't shop. Love you all. Till next week. Bye.